Sourced and bottled in majestic mountains, Liquid Death Mountain Water will murder your thirst.
This episode is brought to you by Liquid Death Mountain Water. Murder your thirst with their stone cold, sparkling or still, tall boy mountain waters. My favorite is a sparkling, but I'll let you decide. So, hydrate your thirsty ass and say death to plastic. Head over to liquiddeath.com to get your fix. Listeners of the Danny Toddcast can get free koozies when you add them to your cart and use the code DTOD at checkout. That's DTODD at checkout. Just make sure you add the koozies to activate the code. So, kill plastic pollution, drink Liquid Death. Liquiddeath.com, get you some.
The Danny Toddcast.
Maybe when I start filming stuff, we'll do it again, and we'll all get dressed up to the nines.
Well, yeah, we'll throw on a tux for the inaugural filmed episode.
That'd be sick, dude.
Now I'm starting to think the tuxedos are pretty fucked up.
I know, right?
All right, now I'm starting to think the tuxedos are pretty fucked up.
So shit, what you guys been up to? Good weekend?
Dude, phenomenal weekend. It was Beach Bash down in Colorado Springs, which is like one of the cool venues down here. Throws this huge. We had like 6 bands play, and they throw. They inflate like pool floaties and like decorate the stage, and they put like everyone wears like Hawaiian shirts and
sick.
Like stuff like that, and it's just an absolute blast. They do like pool themed drinks and stuff like that, so it's just chaos. It gets a little crazy just because people just take pool floaties and just crowd kill. Like, it's just so violent, but it's so much fun.
Did you guys play it or?
No, unfortunately, but our good buddies in Mouth for War played, and then our buddies in Mind's Eye played, and then the guys we're going on tour with next month in Blind to Life played. So so Griffith and I showed up and had to throw down a little bit.
Yeah. Damn, that sounds sick though.
I got to experience the Colorado hardcore scene. What was the date of that again, Brandon?
The 26th of June.
Correct. Oh yeah. Yeah, I flew out very, very early in the morning on a Saturday just to go see Fox Lake play in Colorado Springs, and it was like a 36-hour trip.
Damn.
So like, went there for the day, went to the show, we partied that night, and then I was on a flight like early evening the next day.
That's how you do it.
So worth it. The Colorado hardcore scene is probably the best in the world, in my opinion.
Crazy.
The only time I ever had like crazy experience with hardcore was like, I think I was on tour with the Mice and Men, and it was always in like Salt Lake City, and there was always fights happening.
Yeah.
Is it intense like that, or is it just like just a solid scene?
It like both.
There's some shit going down. Yeah.
It's a lot of friendship and love.
Yeah, but like the shows get
rowdy,
like nutty. Like at one point, not last year but 2 years ago, one of my good buddies, Darian, just like was coming around the pit, just doing some violent moves, and he ended up breaking one of my ribs. There was at the show that Bill was at, our good buddy Joey got clocked clean, and he just like draining blood all over the floor and outside the venue. So it gets crazy, but it's never, well, I shouldn't say never. It's rarely like, actually malicious. People aren't showing up to cause a problem. But
see, that's where I think like, and this is just a few times, well, not the few times, but I think every time I was with the Mice and Men in Salt Lake City, there was always some sort of issue with these hardcore kids coming. But anywhere else, I mean, I love Colorado. Every time I've gone to Colorado, it's amazing. But then again, all the tours I've done, it's not in the hardcore realm. So I honestly have no idea. Like I know maybe a handful of hardcore bands. Yeah. So hopefully from this conversation, and well, when we talked, Bill, on our podcast, I mean, you said some names and stuff like that. So I'm writing them down. So I'm definitely looking for some more.
If I'm being honest, Brandon's actually been educating me on a lot of deeply rooted hardcore bands in the last few months. So
Yeah.
he's the guy to go to.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to write some notes down because in the gym, there's some heavy hitters, and I was telling Bill
You'll
that
hit a PR.
Fox Lake.
Oh, yeah.
That's how I start my workouts every single day. I start out with
Nice.
Fox Lake. It's insane, and then with the new, I think we talked about it, Bill. Is it an EP or is it a short Lady Luck?
Yeah, it's an EP.
EP. Now I start with that, and then I go into the other one.
Yeah, that's it's so wild. We've had like a lot, like a surprising number of like prominent bodybuilders with like, 10, 20, 30,000 followers on Instagram, like sending us messages like, yo, like dig the new record. And we're like, that's awesome. But like,
weird,
crazy.
Right? I think it attests to like the hardcore mixed with like the hip hop influence on it, because I mean, for me, I can't listen to hip hop or rap or whatever during my workouts. I'm strictly just heavy music, from like you guys to I don't even so many, just brutal shit mixed with that. So it's like a different hard hitting thing. But like some people that want to listen to the hip hop vibes, they kind of get the best of both,
Well, and not to mention, I think, and I don't know if you can tell from my chins, but working out is not one of my favorites. But I think for a lot of people, getting into that kind of like groove where you can just like, and you're just pumping it out.
Oh, for sure.
But with the like aggression and like the intensity that gets you like fired up.
It's like hardcore swagger. Like you can have this like swagger in the gym with also just being like, yeah, I'm gonna fuck some shit up. Like
that's what we're going for. That's our whole thing.
Going back to like the whole Colorado scene with the hardcore. Yeah. One of the things I was kind of curious about is because it's combining, hip hop and hardcore. Did the Colorado scene in particular kind of, how did they take it? Like when you guys kind of were, starting and then now you're kind of on the up and up. Are they kind of like, whatever, like fad or something? Or they're just like, yeah, like, let's go.
When it started, so it's kind of hard to say because it went through a couple different iterations. And I think the first couple like batches of songs and shows that we played, we were really trying, we had all been in like Of Mice and Men style, like metalcore bands before. Okay. And then
like that standard Rise Records.
Exactly. Like Risecore was kind of our bread and butter. And, so we had all done that before, and we knew that we didn't want to jump into, we didn't just want to go down the same path because we'd already been there before.
Yeah.
But that led to initially a lot of kind of like forced separation, which was awkward because like that's the music that we listen to. It's the shows we go to. It's the friends that we have. It's the venues that we love, like that kind of thing. And so trying to step away from heavy music was really kind of an awkward space for us. And so a lot of our, heavy music friends would come out to support, but they didn't necessarily love what we were playing or how we were presenting it. And then with Silence and Violence, and even more so with Lady Luck, I think we were kind of like, you know what, let's stop trying to kind of establish what we are so like adamantly, and just write the music that comes naturally and play with the bands that we love, play at the venues that we love, like hang out with the people that we know. And that was kind of like we put Silence and Violence out mid COVID. And so the first show that we played back was the one that Bill came out to, and it was a very different response than we're used to. I think a lot of people were excited for us, but not necessarily something that they would turn on their own for a long time. And then recently we've been getting a lot more feedback that's like, honestly, like, I wanted to support you guys as people, but now I'm stoked because like I love the record.
Yeah.
So it's like you get like, and that's all you could ever ask for in terms of support is like people who love the record genuinely.
Of course.
And and then also who like support you as people and want to see the best for you.
So when you made that kind of, what did you call it? Rise something?
Yeah. Risecore, just like Rise
Risecore.
Records,
So
metalcore.
when you kind of made the break from that, metalcore, risecore, whatever you want to call it, like into what Fox Lake is now with that hip hop influence, was it like you guys sat down and like were like, oh, like what's the singer's name?
Nathan.
So did you guys just know naturally that he had some bars and he was just fucking around at practice one day or something like that? Or like, was there a definitive moment where you're like, okay, let's start throwing that into music?
It was so the
inception of it all.
The metalcore stuff started we had all been in different bands in the scene. And so the Griffith and Nathan, the two brothers, the Griffith, the drummer, and the vocalist, they had been in a band called The Fulfillment. I was in a band called Victory Heights, and then Zach was in a band called Lost of All Days. And so all of us had kind of these different projects that were all in that metalcore space. And then we all kind of got together because The Fulfillment had lost a couple of members and they were working on some new demos, and I had left Victory Heights. And so that we were kind of working on some stuff, and eventually we realized like, okay, the new music doesn't sound like what they were doing, so it can't be the same band. So then that's when it kind of turned into, okay, well now if we're not going to be writing stuff for The Fulfillment, then what, now that opens all the doors to kind of do whatever we want. Mm-hmm. And initially it was kind of like that sworn in, like down tempo, type stuff. And that, again, that felt like we were like, yeah, this is kind of what's like a fad right now, which we still love those records and still like love those bands. But there was a second where that was like everyone was doing that.
Oh yeah.
And we felt like that was very easy. Like it was like, yeah, we can just write what everyone else is doing and it'll get muted immediately because
someone, next month is going to, create a new band with the same thing.
You can be a cool band for a week and then, 3 other bands will write the same breakdown and everyone will forget what you're doing. So we were like, how can we make sure that nobody's doing what we're doing? And there was actually a conversation where we were writing a part and Nathan kind of sat us down and was like, I was kind of thinking about doing some rapping. Like, what do you guys think about that? Okay. And we were like, I mean, I don't know. Like, we knew that there were a lot of things that we didn't want to be and a lot of associations that we didn't want to encourage. Mm-hmm. So we were like, we want to be careful with how we present it. But ultimately we were like, yeah, like if that's what you're feeling, then 100% go for it.
Go for it. Yeah.
And it started off as like, yeah, like there's this one part that I want to do like a rap, like verse. And then it was like, okay, well maybe in this song, I'll do like the verse says we'll all be rapping. And then it was like, okay, now we're writing to leave room for him to do rapping. And then eventually it was kind of like, now that's part of like, that's part of the sound. That's part of what we're writing.
And then, well, Bill, we've talked about it in our podcast a little bit, but like when they approached you, I mean, trying to figure out how to deal with this band, it was probably much different than any other band, I'm guessing. I mean, people can listen to the episode we did. I think it's episode like 123 or something. But I mean, since we're here right now, I mean, what were your thoughts when they approached you with their press package and whatnot?
Well, off the bat, I was really impressed that, I believe it was you, Brandon, that emailed me everything. And, like I said to you in the last episode, Danny, like, I had the full record, 2 music videos, promo pictures, social visual assets, merch, like literally every single piece of the puzzle right there, that, a manager would want, when they're kind of getting like, a cold email, for representation.
Yeah.
So right there, I was like, okay, we're onto something here. And I didn't even listen to the record yet.
And, like, oh, cool. I don't have to ask for anything.
Yeah. But then I listened to the album and I'm like, it really wasn't something, it definitely caught me off guard. So I'm like, okay, this is really, really like different. But like,
Yeah.
you know, people can say like, yeah, we're a rap metal band, rap rock band, but like Fox Lake, I think has cultivated their own unique like sound, you know, when it comes to like rap rock, rap metal.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, you got the rapping, like the hip hop, you've got, you know, like the classic hardcore tropes. And then you also got like, you know, modern metalcore thrown in there. And it's just, and then like, you know, like the weird, like, you know, little guitar sounds, you know, that Brandon makes, like that kind of just like makes it just stand out that much more. And so I was like, in my head, I'm like, I don't care how small this band is right now. Like, I want to jump on this as soon as I possibly can and build this from the ground up, because I know that there's something here. It's just as simple as that, really. It's just like genres don't really like, you know, it's not really like a make or break thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, if you can hook me like from the get go and like I find myself listening to an album or a song 5, 10, 15 times in a row in one sitting, it's like, okay, like I'm passionate about this.
Oh yeah.
So it's just like I don't think genres matter. I think it just matters. It depends on the passion and like the drive that the listener has to take it somewhere where it needs to be. Okay. If that makes sense.
No, yeah, I feel you. And then I guess Brandon, when you contacted Bill, I'm sure you probably put some feelers out there and stuff, but was he kind of, and no shade to you, Bill, was he just another email, or was it
Honestly,
like, we know who he is,
was,
we've heard of him?
We did send a handful, but each of them was an intentional contact. It was something that we were like, we wanted to, we didn't want to wind up with just some name out of a hat who's going to take care of it. Like, it was like, we wanted somebody who was on board and also who we thought was going to do the best for where we were trying to take the band. Yeah. And so Bill, was working with another band at the time, and I had seen them and they were doing, you know, great numbers. They had some solid tours and just good opportunities. And I was really impressed. And so I messaged, one of the members and just asked, I was like, who's taking care of you guys? And he put me in contact with Bill. And so that, like, yes, although we did send a couple of emails, it was very specific in terms of like, I've seen what Bill is doing for this band and how they're working. And that's somebody that I think gets what we're after and who can take care of us in a way that we're looking for.
Right on. Do you think, so I just keep going back and thinking about like the whole fusion of like the hip hop rap and the hardcore thing. Like, I feel like it is on the up and up. And I do think that, you know, well, body count is a huge reason why it's staying strong. But like, as you guys grow, which, I mean, I didn't know about you guys until, I don't know, maybe a couple months ago.
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't know. I forget what I told you, Bill, but a couple months. And then now it's like a daily thing. And when I get hooked on a band, like, it stays, like, especially my gym rotation, like it stays the same, you know, like there's this, you know, I just add to it. I never take away from it. But going further, I mean, do you think, like going back with like the Rise Core, you know, where it's just a turntable of the same bands, do you kind of think that maybe there might be more coming to the table with the hip hop fusion in hardcore, or it's such a tight niche subgenre that it's kind of just stay where it is, and who's ever in it right now is going to stay in it until it blows up, or who knows?
I think it depends on, I think there's a lot of room for exploration, and it depends on if the bands want to go down those avenues. So, for example, we're in a position where, you know, we're trying not to pigeonhole the sound or the bands that we play with, or the, you know, like any of the opportunities that we take in terms of, you know, we don't want to be just a hardcore band playing, you know, DIY basement punk venues. Yeah. We don't want to be just a metalcore band playing, you know, overly sanitized, really produced music. Mm-hmm. We don't want to be just, you know, a hip hop focus or like new metal band playing, you know, Eyebrow Ring, Dreadlock Festival. Like, we want to be like really careful with, you know, appealing wherever we can, but also writing the music that we're excited about. There's a quote from the guy from Straight from the Path. The guitarist at one point said, if your own band isn't your favorite band, then you're doing it wrong. So it's like,
fair enough.
We want to write music that we want to go back and listen to as well.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, if we're not stoked on what's happening. So there have been a couple of times where we've written songs that are like, we're like, I think objectively this is a good song, but it's just not something that like, you know, I'm stoked on, and it's not really like a genre that I love, or it's not whatever it is. And so, you know, we've had 10, 15 songs easy that, you know, that we write top to bottom and then go, you know what? No, I don't think that's quite it. And I think, to go back to your initial question, I think that there are a lot of bands that, you can kind of blend in any genre, but specifically like hip hop and hardcore, they share so much DNA. There, you know, like typically it's anti-establishment. Typically it's very aggressive delivery. Typically it's, you know, representative of, marginalized people or groups, or, you know, like things like that. And it's very politically present and stuff like that. And so there's so much similarity that you can kind of blend comfortably. It doesn't feel like an awkward, you know, combination. And I mean, there are bands that are pure hardcore bands that have, you know, straight rapping, like almost the whole time. There's a band, 3 Knee Deep, is a hardcore band that they just put out a record that's, most of the vocals are rapping, but it's over like hardcore music. And, you know, things like E-Town Concrete and, even Cold World, has kind of like, you know, street hip hop influence there. But like objectively, they're hardcore bands. It's not, you know, it's not like, oh, that's a new metal or that, you know, whatever. So yeah, I think there's a ton of opportunity for blending, and for different genres to kind of pop up comfortably for that evolution, as opposed to like, I think there are a lot of bands that are going to make it stale. I think that there are plenty of bands that, you know, are going to do the same thing that's comfortable and it's going to be cool for a year. But, yeah, I think there is a lot of room for progress.
Okay.
To add to that too, Danny, I guess going back to what you said, like, I think you said something like, where do you see Fox, like, you know, like tour wise or touring wise, like how do you fit into like, and it's like in this day and age, just from what I see from my perspective, there aren't any fucking rules when it comes to touring anymore.
Yeah.
In the rock space,
for sure.
Because just rock in general, just because like, oh yeah, Turnstile, Suicide Boys. Then you had like
Chief Keef.
that Sleeping with Sirens tour that was announced right before COVID, and they had Unity, TX, and fucking Stray from the Path opening for them with Amity Affliction direct support. It's like, does that tour make sense in 2010? No.
No way.
But now it's like, okay, yeah, cool. It's a really nice, diverse, mixed bag of bands, and I think I don't know if that tour is going to happen still, but I thought that was a great lineup, in my opinion.
This episode is brought to you by Draft Top. Draft Top has created a product that allows you to unlock the aroma of what is inside your cans. Smooth pours and open top make it on par with drinking from the glass. Add ice, pour in some booze, or garnish that sucker if you fancy. You can also drink it a lot faster too. I'm just saying. So, get one for yourself. It also makes a great gift. Change your experience of drinking from the can. Head over to drafttop.com and save when you use code ToplessCrew10. And I think, you know, there is an awesome, like really cool variety of the tours that you guys could do. You could do your traditional hardcore lineup. You're going to crush it. You could be put on like, you know, the typical Rise tour, which always crush because whatever. Yeah. But you know what? I can see you guys on like a actual hip hop main bill, I guess. I can't think of maybe anyone off the top of my head, but like, you know, maybe an opener or a second slot of like a predominant hip hop rap tour.
Yeah.
And I feel like people would be fucking amped on that shit. Like,
I I think, first of all, thank you.
Oh, yeah. I'm just
second
stoked.
of all, I'm assuming, I don't know if you're familiar with the band Knocked Loose.
Yeah.
They actually are an awesome kind of like, indication, like, or rather like a good guidebook in terms of how I want to approach a lot of touring and a lot of like choices that we make, because so they did a tour with A Day to Remember, and it was like stadium, it was huge.
Oh, yeah.
And I listened to an interview from their vocalist, and he was talking about, he was like, maybe of the 2,000 people in the room, maybe 300 like it. More than half are just going to be like, I'm here for A Day to Remember. I don't like this sound, whatever it is. This is too heavy. It's too whatever. And, more than half of the people are going to immediately write it off. But then, 300 kids are going to be like, you know what? I think I like this. 200 of those kids go home and check it out. 100 of those kids buy a record.
I mean, that's a win,
something
for
like
sure.
that. So, and you do that, every night for a month, 2 months, whatever it is.
It's pretty
and
good.
You're immediately building, exponentially.
Yeah.
And so, but then they come home and they do, hardcore festivals with underground punk bands that nobody's heard of. And, they're playing smaller venues. They're playing with more unknown bands and stuff like that. And so and I think that for them, I know, again, that's the music they listen to. Those are the friends they have. Those are the venues they frequent. So that's how you kind of keep what you're about as part of the band without, jumping too headfirst into, we'll take whatever tour we can.
Yeah.
So finding a good balance of the stuff that you want to do with the stuff that's best for you. And being able to write the music that allows those opportunities to flourish. So writing music that we could be on a hip hop bill, or writing music that we could be on a hardcore bill, writing music we could be on a metal, like whatever it is. Cause I think once you narrow down a sound and get too, again, kind of pigeonholed, get too specific, then all of a sudden those opportunities start to die out.
Yeah. And to add to that too, like Knocked Loose just announced that straight up like hardcore tour, like no barricade, small venues.
Oh,
Yep.
shit.
And like, they're like, obviously they're headlining, but they have like 3 or 4, lesser known hardcore bands that they're giving the rub to, which is awesome. And, that goes a long way, and it just shows like the integrity of that band and, the willingness to give back and not, let, the fame and like hype, get to their head. So that's really cool. Man.
Yeah. And then did you say earlier in the episode you have something coming up, right? Festival?
We're going on a very small little run. We're playing a festival out in Indiana.
Okay.
And our good friends in Blind to Life, which is a hardcore band from from Colorado Springs, they're also playing the festival. And so we're just doing, I think, 4 like routing shows, with them. And then the day after that festival in Indiana, we're going to drive through the night to get back to Denver, because we're playing with, Silent Planet and Dying Wish, which is going to be awesome.
Yeah. Bill, you told me about that. Yeah. I was like, okay. Yep. Well, that's sick. You guys are pretty much, right out the bat. Lady Luck was not that long ago, right?
About a month.
A month? So
3
you guys
weeks.
are...
Not even, July 16th. So
I've been into it.
Just over 2 weeks.
And one thing, Bill and I talked about it. Even the name of our podcast together was called All Killer, No Filler. And he was telling me kind of that, and you kind of touched on it a little bit with 15 songs and, the new EP, it's short, it's boom in your face. Like, is that going to be kind of the vibe going on for the next, whatever EP or short cycles? Or are you guys going to kind of go into more full records, or how are you guys trying to all killer, no filler it up? You know what I mean?
I think what's been fascinating, and especially with COVID really kind of shook things up, but in a way that was already sort of inevitable, but it just expedited the process. I think, people's attention spans, especially with streaming and stuff like that, are so much shorter. Mm-hmm. And, I know myself included, that's in no way like a passive aggressive dig. There's so much music. There's so much availability. It's so easy to find. And, so I think, unfortunately, the kind of the album cycle that used to be a lot more prevalent in like the early 2000s of, you know, you spend a year and a half writing a record, you spend, you know, half of the year promoting it and stuff like that. You drop the record and then you tour that for a year and then you go silent for another year and a half to write a record. Like that album cycle, people don't have the attention span to sit and wait for, you know, 2.5 years for an album. But if you're dropping consistent singles, if you're dropping EPs, if you're, you know, dropping music videos and things like that, then you're staying on people's radar and that momentum never really goes away. The ball doesn't stop rolling. Which is not to say, like, obviously we would love to write a full length, and that's something that specifically me, like as the songwriter, that's something that I would love the challenge of, and also just like the artistic, like the excitement of being able to sit down and write like a full, you know, a work where you know, like from 1 to 12 songs and everything's kind of all together and you're putting everything out. But, I think for now we have a good friend, our good friend Connor Haynes, who did the recording, the tracking, the production on Silence and Violence and, Lady Luck. And he lives really close to us. And so we have a lot of cool opportunity to, you know, just kind of keep pumping out songs. I've already been demoing. We've got 2 songs started and we just dropped the record a couple weeks ago. Yeah. So the plan is to, you know, all killer, no filler. We're going to write and release the best songs that we can. And we'd rather put out a 4-song EP that's exactly what we want it to be than a 6-song EP that's, you know, got some fluff tracks in it. Yeah.
Or even like a full length. I mean, eventually, you know, if you want, obviously with what you were saying, like your own personal challenge of writing a whole record, that's awesome in its own way because, well, it's a whole record. That's a lot of fucking work, you know? Yeah. But also, I mean, by the time that comes out, like what you might be writing now, especially in such a niche genre, subgenre, I mean, who knows? Because it's so small right now that whatever you write now within a year, it's going to be still groundbreaking and new. So maybe it's different. I mean, within the hip hop, hardcore, maybe, you know, if you do spend a year writing a record, it might have no effect, you know, of being stale or old. But do you know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure it out. Well, as I'm talking, I'm like, fuck.
That sounds like every time I open my mouth. But I think it's hard because, first of all, and we in the band, we've all talked about this. I think we're all our own harshest critics, which can be a blessing and a curse. Oh yeah. Myself especially, I have a tendency to like really beat myself up on aspects of songwriting and choices that we make and stuff like that, but only because it's finalized. When it's finalized, you go back and change anything. And so I'll still to this day, I'll turn on Lady Luck and hear a part and be like, oh, I wish we would have done a different drum fill there. Oh, I wish, you know, like that guitar tone is like a little bit different, but which is never to say that anyone associated with the production or the tracking or anything like that has like made a mistake. It's just that you get tired of hearing that same thing and you hear different opportunities. But also there's a quote, I'm just quoting everyone's guitarist, but there's a quote from the guitarist of, Norma Jean, I believe, where he says, it's the musician's curse to never hear your own song for the first time. So every time you listen to a song that you've written, you hear, you know, the voice note memo that you had when you were driving in your car and you're like, ba da 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 da, and then that turns into a garage band demo, which turns into a professional demo, which turns into a recording, which turns into the release. So you never get to hear it for the first time as you visualized it. Yeah. So you always hear the work behind it. And I think in that sense, a year is too long. After a year is over, I have heard that song so many times in my head that it sounds nothing like what people hear the first time they throw it on.
And to speak on the full length conversation, there is a full length planned, just planned.
Just saying. Yeah.
Nothing set in stone. No dates or nothing concrete yet, but me and Brandon had a really nice brainstorming session the last time I was in Colorado. And I'll just tell you right now, without revealing too many details of what we want to do with it, it's going to be fucking crazy. And that's basically just incorporating the hardcore, the hip hop, the metalcore, and it's having, I guess, call it like Fox Lake's like magnum opus.
So like, yeah, like, so Silence and Violence and Lady Luck is like the get ready.
It's like the precursor.
Get ready.
It's coming. I think that the plan, one of the things that I love about specifically working with Bill, but with this group of dudes, is that we're very careful to, we want to be 4 or 5 steps ahead. So even though we don't have any songs specifically written for the full, actually that's not true. We have like 3 that we're like, we know we're not going to release until it's ready for like a full solid record. But a lot of that planning is like, okay, we know that this isn't this year. It might not even be next year, but we already have our plans set up for, a couple of years down the road. When we do a full length, this is what it's going to feel like. We don't know what it's going to sound like other than those couple of songs that we have right now. But,
just a lot of the pieces have to be in the right place too for this type of full length that we want to do. And obviously the number one thing is money.
Well, yeah.
But just money and big backing. But yeah, just playing it very safe but still consistent. And, with like these little spurts of releases that, we're putting out, we just try to supplement that as best as possible to kind of fill the gaps in between, releases and stuff like that.
So you have that long-term plan, or not long-term, but, year or two.
Longer term.
Shorter, longer? Longer, shorter? Because it's not like 5 years long-term. It's like 1 or 2 years for full length.
I mean, we have that too, but.
Well, yeah. But so you said kind of mid-pandemic, that was Silence and Violence. And then, I mean, boom, Lady Luck. That's not that short. I mean, not that long of a time.
That's like, it's less than, I think it was 8 months. It was like less than a year.
I mean, 8 months, can we expect a new EP? Or like without, say what you can, whatever, but like, is there a plan for something short term?
You'll probably get, if I can speak for Brandon, you're the manager, so I mean, you can expect at least 2, maybe 3 more singles, or something for the rest of the year. I
mean, that makes me stoked because more fuel to the fire in the gym and just get jacked, so it's sick. But yeah, that's
just with like the tours and the shows coming up too. Like, we want to kind of be strategic about it. Like, we do have a small like 10-day, 2-week tour in November that's near completion for booking. But ideally, we'd want to drop a single like the day of or like the day before the tour, or whenever the first Friday is before the tour, just so something to coast on. Just, hey, come out and hear this song on this tour, something like that. I don't know.
So as far as, and Bill, I'm sure we talked about this on our podcast. I mean, like I said, people can listen to it if they want to. But as far as like the marketing, like I'm sure, Brandon, you and the dudes run the Instagram as well. I'm sure someone does take care of it sometimes, on the back end here and there, but like overall in general, like how are you guys going about the marketing of, your band? I mean, you do present yourselves as like, the hardcore with the album covers and all that stuff and the photography and whatnot. But like, is there like a specific way you guys are trying to treat it, or you're just kind of like, hey, let's take photos, put it up, whatever, let's go?
There is a very specific way that we're trying to treat it, in the same way as those songs that we've said this actually isn't really representative of what we want to sound like, or this isn't stuff that we're stoked on, so we're not going to release it. We've got a handful of like logos that we've had people draw up that we said, actually, I don't think this is quite how we want to present it. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, the biggest inspirations are, modern hardcore bands and like 90s hip hop bands. That's
Okay.
so hip hop bands and hip hop artists. So for example, the album cover for Silence and Violence, our friend Jack drew it up, and he did the album cover for Lady Luck as well, and he's unbelievable. Super
Yeah, he's got
talented.
some really cool art. I mean, that's something that you guys should for sure stick with, at least on anything, because it's, I don't know, just dial that into your DNA.
Yeah. No one else is really
Yeah.
nailing the art like Fox Lake is.
But his stuff, he went through when we kind of, like, I sat down with him and kind of expressed, okay, here's what I want it to look like. Here's what I'm, here are some of the songs. You can hear what it sounds like. This is how we're trying to push it. And he was right there on the same page and was kind of exchanging ideas. And he went home and did a bunch of research on, 90s hip hop, like cassette tape covers.
Okay.
And stuff that people were handing out in New York City, like handing out on the street, stuff like that. And so that's a lot more the inspiration for kind of the visuals.
Okay.
That's where the hip hop kind of comes in. And this is a fun little Easter egg for people who are listening to the podcast. A lot of the captions on the things that we post on Instagram, if it's not specifically about like, here's our tour dates or a show coming up,
Okay.
Are lines from like iconic 90s hip hop songs. So there's stuff from like No Diggity by Blackstreet. There's stuff from like MF Doom, Nas. So like just as another way to incorporate that feel and that vibe of that kind of gritty street hip hop, along with the, obviously aggressive hardcore kind of delivery. But those are the two kind of very much not only sonically, but also visually and from a marketing perspective and a branding perspective, those are the things that we're trying to blend.
And then, I mean, this goes for both of you guys, but like, I'm sure the majority of the feedback that you hear from, fans already, or just random people, whoever it might be, it's probably all really good. But I would imagine there might be some like maybe more on the hip hop. Well, actually, I don't know. Is there some hate either coming from both sides? Or not hate, but like being like, yo, stay in your lane.
I haven't seen any from my perspective, honestly.
Well, that's good.
I've had some friends or what, like, maybe some peers like in the industry. I've showed the, Fox Lake to them, and they're just like, yeah, this is cool. Not really my thing though. That's probably the most hate I've ever seen, but
that's good.
I think we're incredibly fortunate, knock on wood, in that we haven't had a lot of, almost any at all, like aggressive opposition to what we're doing. We have there, I think, right off the bat, especially in the hardcore scene, and especially in the hardcore scene that we are kind of present in, not necessarily as a band, but as people, rapping in hardcore music for a lot of people right off the bat is just like, nope, like they're out. That's not something that they're interested in. Kind of clean production is not something they're interested in. So there have been plenty of people who have been like, it's not my thing. Yeah. And we can't force people to like a genre that they're not interested in. But what we can do is, I mean, even specifically, so listening to something like Born to Lose, which is the single off of Lady Luck, that is way more hardcore influenced and way more kind of upfront with that kind of sound than any of the stuff on Silence and Violence. And so that was something that some of the feedback was like, we had kids who were like, I never really cared for your band, but now like that song is a lot more, hardcore, and that's something that I would listen to. And I'm stoked that I can, again, like I said earlier, like now I can kind of support it, not only from a personal perspective, but also like sonically. Yeah. But yeah, I think every band is going to get a little bit of hate. Everyone's going to get some, we've had people compare us to Emir and said that, we're like knockoff Attila and stuff like that. And most of the time it's just an uninformed opinion. It's like, okay, so you clearly haven't listened to the record. Like, you heard one part, heard that there was rapping in heavy music, and immediately made that association
before they even pressed play. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, and you've already made your decision that you don't like the band before you even heard the album. So, and there's not a whole lot you can do about those people. Like,
just gotta let them be. Yeah. What's up,
like,
Bill?
Whatever.
To add to that too, it's like, what I was saying before about touring and there's no rules anymore. I guess like kind of look at Silence and Violence, like, the guest vocalist on there, Daniel from Gideon, that's straight up, fucking hardcore, like primarily a hardcore band, right, Brandon?
For the most part, yeah.
Yeah.
But then, in Lady Luck, we have Elijah from Cane Hill on there.
Yeah.
Who, what you wouldn't think he'd guest vocal on a hardcore band's album, but I texted him one day and I'm like, yo, Whit, do you want to jump on the new Fox Lake record? And all caps, he replied, yes, please.
That's awesome.
And I'm like, cool. So,
do you guys have like a roster of who you might want to pull from I mean, I'm sure you probably don't want to say anything, but like, I mean, on both sides, on hardcore, I mean, I know your singer's got bars, but I'm sure pulling from the actual rap hip hop scene.
Well, Nathan's so versatile too. Like he can compliment almost anybody. Like,
that's good. Yeah.
He can scream, he can fucking yell, he can rap. Like he can do it all. Like, I mean, I'll be the first to say Nathan's probably one of the most slept on vocalists in the scene right now, talent wise, and just, yeah,
he's so damn handsome.
That too.
Bunch of handsome dudes. That helps a band for sure. I'll tell you that.
I think that again, and it's almost like harping on it at this point, but like one of the things that we took a lot of inspiration from in terms of the hip hop scene is you look at any major hip hop artist is doing consistent collaborations.
Mm-hmm.
It's just an awesome way to incorporate different different listeners, different fan bases, things like that. And also it just sounds like it, if there's a specific sound that you're trying to get, a lot of the times we would rather not mimic something if we know somebody who would just kill it.
Yeah.
Like, so Dan, for example, we knew we needed somebody that was going to bring some beef to that middle breakdown part. And Nathan is absolutely capable of doing it. He does it live and it's not like it's weak.
Yeah.
But
it's different.
Dan just has this absolute like roar and this intensity. And we were like, we know that that's somebody that's going to, maximize the capacity of that part. And it was the same thing with Whit. He just sounds,
he's got his own different,
feral.
I can't even describe, like, listen to Cane Hill and it's like this weird, I can't describe it. Like if you've listened to Cane Hill, you know what I'm talking about.
Exactly.
The funny thing about Whit being on that song too is like obviously we've all seen Cane Hill evolve from like just like that straight new metalcore band to like kind of just cultivating their own sound now and like the hard rock space. But I think I like tweeted something before the album came out, like, can't wait for you guys to hear, add Elijah Witt's guest spot on the Lady Luck EP. It's going to fucking like knock you on your ass. And, Witt like quote tweeted it saying, he said, I went self-titled EP on this shit.
That's sick.
So it was like a little callback to Cane Hill's roots, and you can hear it on the track too.
Oh yeah.
And we knew when we wrote that song, and especially that part, we knew that we wanted it to sound frantic. We knew that we wanted it to sound kind of intense and not as straightforward. Mm-hmm. We didn't want somebody who's just going to bring some beef. We wanted it like the song is written from the perspective of somebody who's like, in a home invasion out of desperation from the situation that they find themselves in.
Okay, hold on. So what's the name of the song again?
No Remorse.
No Remorse, and that's with Elijah, right?
Yep.
So can you say, what did you want it to sound like? A home invasion?
Well, that's what the lyrics are.
See,
so
okay, when I'm working out, sometimes, certain parts, like the key punches of some of those lyrics, like, yeah, I can remember those, but like now I'm going to go into that song and like actually listen to I'll do it with all of them, but that one, I'm going to be like,
totally fine.
Oh my God, that's brutal. So I'm going to go back, and anyone listening hasn't put two and two together on home invasion, whatever. Like, okay, let's all do it together. Yeah. Damn. Okay. I don't know. That's the point of having people like yourself on, to kind of get, even just the ice break of something I should already be doing is listening to lyrics. But to talk to someone, you telling me kind of like the vibe behind it and everything like that, like, I don't know. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Well, and that's, so the whole record, Nathan did an unbelievable job. And it was something that, he and I kind of bounced some ideas back and forth, and then he took off with the lyrics, and it was awesome to kind of like, you know, have everyone on board, but very much so, sonically kind of match with what he like. I had written the songs and had gone up and demoed everything out and then presented them to the band. And then he went through and had like a couple weeks where he just sat down and wrote all the lyrics. And, we had talked about how we wanted the record to be more conceptual, kind of top to bottom. And so even though it's not necessarily one specific narrative, the idea is every song represents one of the facets of money. So Lady Luck is a record, and I want to be careful. I don't want to speak on his behalf because he can obviously do a much better job. But the kind of short term of it is Lady Luck is a record that's all about the upsides and downsides of money. So you have Railbird, is kind of this like fast, loose gambling. It's the idea of you can have money and lose money, and that can happen without you even really being involved. That decision can be made for you. It's kind of like the house always wins sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then Bite Chew Swallow is a lot more, is kind of about similar to Born to Lose, but Bite Chew Swallow is more about kind of the situations that oppress marginalized people. Born to Lose is about the lyrics are literally eat the rich and the system hates you. It's very upfront. And then No Remorse is kind of how you, once you're in that position of not having any other options, where do you go and how do you handle that? And a lot of people, that's the option, is it's like, all right, I guess this is what I have to do. And you end up with a home invasion. So, and again, I want to be careful because he can obviously do a much better job.
Yeah.
But that was a very intentional, concept that we wanted to explore in terms of money. And it's very prevalent to what's going on right now. It's very prevalent to what's going on last year.
Yeah. I agree.
And so, and I mean, like even down to things like the album is money green. It's specifically like a type of money green. And we played around with a couple different colors and we said, if it's about money, then it should be,
of course,
a green record. And so, yeah, along with that, like I said, to tie it back to Whit's part, that was something that we wanted it to sound desperate. We wanted it to sound, kind of insane. And on some of the new Cane Hill stuff, that dude should be institutionalized. It's crazy. We knew that he was capable of making the best out of that part.
I will also say too, I did like the callback at the end of No Remorse to Railbird. So it like kind of all ties together.
Mm-hmm.
Like the cash down, eyes up part right at the end of No Remorse.
See,
like that was such a nice touch to that record.
I agree for sure. And that's kind of goes back into the whole, the shorter all killer, no filler kind of EPs that you can release more sporadic. You can nail in certain things. Like you're talking, the ups and downs of, money. I mean, if you did a 10, 15 song full length album and it's all about money, it's like, holy shit. Like, or you break it up, money, yada, 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 yada. Like, then it's just like, fuck. So having that nail in on certain things, that's pretty cool.
Absolutely. And that's something that I've seen a couple of bands. I love concept records, but I tend to be very pretentious about that kind of thing. So looking at bands like Thrice, who did the Alchemy Index. I don't know if you're familiar with that set of records.
Not like crazy.
It's so essentially they took, air, earth, water, and fire, and then they released, I think, like 6 songs, something like that so it's a series of 4 EPs.
Okay.
That are all about one of those elements.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
But all of the songwriting is influenced by that. So like the one for Fire is really, heavy, and the production is really thick, and the guitars are a lot grittier and kind of cracklier, which is, again, it's supposed to feel like fire.
Yeah.
And then the one for Water is very sort of calm and, a little bit more flowy and stuff like that. And so I love concept records, but I 100% agree. If it was all fire for, 16 songs or whatever it is, you would be checked out.
Yeah.
And so being able to say, okay, here are 4 songs, each that represent a different facet of the influence that money has on people, and kind of our take on that. That was something that we could really hone in on something specifically, write a song, fill it up exactly how we wanted to, and go from there, as opposed to being like, okay, well, we have to fill, a full track listing with like, okay, I guess another song about the government. Like, it just, you don't ever want it to sound repetitive. Like
I mentioned before already, and, Bill and I have talked about it on our episode, just keeps going back to the, all filler, or all killer, all filler. Oh, geez. Just all straight killer, no filler, just straight to the point. Yeah. All filler. Let's see how that goes, right? Yeah.
100%.
All fucking filler. Jesus.
And that's something that we strive for in all aspects. We don't want to put out some crappy music video just for the sake of putting something out. We want it, like, if we're putting it out and we're stamping our name on it, it's got to be how we want it to be put out, with the people we want to be working with. It's got to be, something that we stand by and that we're excited about. So yeah, I'm going to get that tattooed on my forehead. I think that's the best way to approach.
Sounds good to me, dude. Yeah.
Do it. You won't.
Yeah. Right there. Yeah. You heard it here now.
No balls.
And one, I feel like it's probably something you've probably gotten a lot. I don't know whether it's DMs or something like that, but I'm just curious. Fox Lake, is that a lake in Colorado, or is it just random? Like,
so it's not random. It's something that, so when we were in that kind of like in between where we knew that it wasn't going to be the fulfillment anymore, we're writing songs for a new project. Mm-hmm. We're kind of looking for a name. We tossed a ton around, and we didn't want to have something, again, that defined what the band, like when people saw it, we didn't want them to be like, I know what that's going to be. So if we picked some name, something that's just like, fuck you, then it's like, okay, well, that's a hard.
Yeah.
Like, and so we wanted to be careful with the selection. And so we had thrown around like dozens and dozens, and it was getting to the point where we were like, I have no idea. Like, I don't know what it's going to be. We were getting frustrated. We actually played a show, kind of like a secret show with no name, and just played a handful of songs because we wanted to see kind of how it felt to play live. But Nathan he was up in the mountains with a bunch of his friends. And, as I recall, it's like 2:00 in the morning. He's like alone sitting in a hot tub. Everyone else has gone inside, and he like looked out from this hot tub, and it's like the moonlight was shining on this lake, and a fox ran by. He was just like, Fox Lake. Okay. And that was like a moment that, it has more significance to him. And he's talked about kind of like this idea of serenity versus aggression in terms of foxes being kind of predators, but also, it's this duality. So it has a lot of meaning, but
it's interesting.
Specifically, it was something that we wanted to, we found that there's like an indie band, like an indie soft, like acoustic band that used to be called Fox Lake. And so we were like, clearly this isn't something that's specific to any genre. Yeah. So people have to do their research once they see that name. That doesn't mean that you know what you're getting in for.
Oh yeah. I mean, well, when I first found out about you guys, I mean, like I said, it was a couple months ago, maybe. I'm trying to think about who it was. It honestly might have been you, Bill. You probably tweeted about it, and I was like, what the fuck is Fox Lake? Like, didn't know. Like, I mean, I saw him, I've known, Bill for years, like 10 years or something like that with the touring world and whatnot. So I know like he's into the same music that I am, but yet I still had no idea what Fox Lake was. I was like, okay, whatever, I'll try it out. And then months later, it's jammed literally every day. So, and I'm not even just saying that to be nice. Like, I literally listen to it every day.
Thank you.
So, There's one last thing because I actually got to get. Well, we're coming up an hour, and I also still have to put a tri-tip in the oven. But also, I wanted to kind of keep this around a certain time because I know we could probably keep going. But I feel like we'll definitely be doing this again, maybe a couple months or something after some shows and whatnot. But I kind of wanted to ask, as far as like the whole pandemic, writing music, releasing music. I mean, it's kind of weird for everyone. I mean, inside and outside the industry, just normal life and everything. Has it affected it in like a positive way or a negative way? I mean, probably both. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, there's absolutely pros and cons. And I think it, more than positive or negative, it kind of just shifted the dynamic and the approach, I guess, the path that you would usually take. It was something that we actually had Silence and Violence done in, I don't know, like June, something like that of 2020. And even before that, we had the record finished, but we didn't have all of the, all the assets that we had talked about. So it was pretty ready to go very early on in the year. And we were kind of trying to figure out, okay, as everyone was, we were like, all right, is this, just a 2-week quarantine? Is this going to be, a couple months? Is this, forever? Like, how do we approach releasing music in the way that's going to best? We knew we didn't want to just like put it out, because I think if we had just dropped it, it would have been a perfectly fine local release. We would have gotten a, decent number of streams, and that would have been the end of that. But we had spent so much time and had such big plans for it that we knew we needed to play our cards right. And so it came to a point where we were like, all right, let's release this thing we had 2 music videos ready to go. So we put out a single, and that was Tunnel Vision with a music video with the announcement of signing to Modern Empire Records. And then, a couple weeks later, put out another single. A couple weeks after that, put out another single with another music video. The week after that, dropped the record. New merch kind of going throughout that whole thing. And so it was, like I said, it shifted the intention. Instead of being like, all right, now we're going to get on the road. Now we're going to play a bunch of shows to kind of solidify that. It was like, all right, now we're going to really push social media. We're going to interact with people as much as we can on social media. We're going to have consistent posts. We're going to have consistent content. And the coolest thing has been how organic that growth has been. We knew that we didn't want to take kind of a illegitimate, sounds almost like pejorative, but like we knew that we didn't want to just funnel a bunch of money into advertising to get, a handful of kids to see a paid ad who then are like, I mean, I guess I'll check this band out. Like, we knew that we wanted it to be something that people discover and are excited about. And that's
last longer. If you pay to 100%. Put it in their face, like they might listen to it for, a week or however long, I mean, even longer, but like, going with the organic route and they come against it or come across it, naturally and organically and on their own, like they're more likely to be truer and listen longer, legit fan,
1,000%.
And by the way, anyone listening that's, found it on a paid post or something, I'm not coming after you. If you're a real fan, we're good.
And I want to be very careful with that wording, because I don't want to make it seem like, bands who do paid posts or anything like that are in any way less, legitimate or that their fans are not as, real or anything like that. That's in no way what I'm trying to say. I just know that for us, the intention was we wanted to have people discover it and get excited about it, based on like word of mouth, based on, and even just the product, just excitement about like, oh, this is, I haven't heard anything like this. This is something different. This is something new. And, so, almost all of the growth that we've seen in following and in opportunities and things like that is entirely from people sharing it around, influencers in like the metalcore and hardcore world saying, hey, you got to check out this record, posting about it, putting, tagging us on Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that. And that's been so rewarding. And even though I think we're at like 2,500, something like that, Instagram followers, as of like today, something
nice.
Around there, but we get 5, 6, 7 DMs a day, just from people who are just reaching out to talk to us and to tell us that they love the record or that they're jamming it while they're at the gym, that kind of thing.
That's awesome.
And that I would much rather that than, cause I sit for hours a day and respond to every single one of those messages. Cause it's, first of all, so insanely cool. And second of all, that's one of my favorite things about social media is that you connect with a band.
Oh yeah.
And so I get the opportunity to sit and talk to people about, what they like about the record or, that their merch is on the way and they're so stoked and, I can't wait to see it and hope you love it, like that kind of thing. And, that's something that I think for a lot of if you go the paid route, a lot more of those people, it's going to pop up on your Spotify
mm-hmm.
and it might show up on a playlist for a second and then
yeah.
You don't even recognize, you're like, that's a cool song, but you don't know who that band is and you definitely don't have a personal connection.
Yeah. And
so that's something that we had to approach kind of carefully with COVID because that without touring and without being able to actually make that personal connection, it's hard to, it's hard to really see that growth. And we are very fortunate in that we have been able to kind of have our cake and eat it too.
Right on.
To that also, I guess from my perspective, when I first linked up with them during the pandemic, obviously I was stuck in my room doing jack shit all day, except, just watching movies and, just working on my laptop, it's like, okay, Fox Lake isn't touring anytime soon. What can we do to basically inject some shock growth into this band that no one knows about?
Yeah.
So what I did is just, I went through my phone, went through my Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and I just found all these different people that might fuck with Fox Lake. It was like, hey man, you want to hear a song from this new band that I just picked up, or do you want to see this video? Blah, 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 blah. So dude, on my end, I just was just plugged in all day, every day, just trying to get this band out there.
Getting it out there, yeah.
And I think, Brandon, you can back me up on this. It clearly paid off. Or is paying off.
We're talking right now because
exactly.
I'm pretty sure it was, I'm pretty damn sure it was a tweet that you did, Bill, and I saw it. So
and we also out of nowhere, we got the Serious Octane placement.
And that's badass. Yep. Congrats on that. That was cool.
December of last year, which was crazy. And we just got a spin on a Liquid Metal this past week, which was pretty sweet.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. Something's working.
It's it's working. We can kind of leave it at that. You guys write great music. I've only met you right now. I'm sure the rest of you guys are good people. I don't think Bill would be attached to people that are
they're all
bozos. So I wish the best for you guys. And before we leave, obviously Bill, let's go with you first, and then you can go Brandon as far as your socials and stuff and where you want them to go. Just Bill, you can go first and plug some shit.
Instagram, Twitter, it's just at Bill something _, and got a clothing brand called Cruelty Club. Just on Instagram right now, it's just Cruelty Club _ might create more socials for it, might not. I think Instagram's fine for now.
Pretty solid. Right on, man.
Other than that, listen to Fox Lake and stay tuned because there's tons of shit coming up. Some really awesome things, tours, shows, music, more merch. And also, speaking of merch, I get my Lady Luck pre-order package in the mail tomorrow.
Oh, woo, boy.
And sorry if you missed out, but these pre-order packages have actual physical CDs of both Silence and Violence and Lady Luck. So
that's pretty sick.
Yeah, pretty stoked on that. I'm stoked to get my band's merch.
Literally, Sam.
I buy Fox Lake's merch. Don't get it twisted.
I'll have to get some too. I'll buy some. Brandon, where, your personal social, the band, where you want people to go. I mean, just hit them with the facts.
Hit them with the facts. Yeah, basically everything for Fox Lake is just Fox Lake CO.
Right,
that's Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. Just Fox Lake on Spotify. For me personally, at Craft Punks with a K and an X. I wish I could remember everyone else's, but yeah, I think anytime anyone wants to reach out on any of those social medias, we all see all the messages, we all interact on the social media. And so, shoot us a message, say what's up, and we are happy to talk to whoever wants to chat.
Right on. And I'll have all those social links in the bio so people don't have to remember our shit. They can easily click, we got to make it easy. But obviously, Bill, thank you again. And then Brandon, I appreciate it. Hopefully we can do this again soon. Figure it out.
I can talk for an hour and a half by myself. So
there'll be a part two.
We'll schedule
for
some
sure.
more time, man.
I think we can have up to 6 people on this StreamYard thing. So we'll figure something out. That'd be sick. Do something. Who knows? We'll figure out a game plan. We'll do it. But anyways, thank you for taking time out of your Sunday.
Yeah, right back at you, man. Thank you so much.
The Guitarist.